right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. We'd like to hear your views on every single topic that we're going to touch on at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We'll talk about the headlines, all matters politics, and everything in between there. Let's start off with the Daily Nation. Let me introduce my guest one more time in case you're just joining us. Fred Okango, Political Affairs Secretary. Kanu, thank you so much for making time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oliver Kipchumba is here, Advocate of the High Court. Asante sana.
Asante.
And Danstan Omari, Advocate of the High Court as well. Asante sana for making time.
Thank you very much.
So let's start off with the Daily Nation front page, fall of Sakaja. And Omari, I'll start with you on this. So what do you make of this fiasco? There's quite a lot of issues coming out here, but what do you make of the whole fiasco? There's the blame for President Uhuru Kenyatta. There's Sakaja thinking that there's a plot to bring him down. There's the issue of the degree, CUE, allowing it, and then saying it's not valid. What do you make of this?
It's a very interesting discussion that has gripped the nation, and it raises around 4 or 5 issues that are very pertinent that Kenyans have been shying away from discussing. Now they have been brought, the Sakaja'S scandal or whatever it is, has brought to the nation. One, the question at the core of it is that does Honorable Sakaja have a degree? And if he has a degree, what restrains him from producing that degree? And the matter is settled once and for all. A degree is a very critical question that is very critical in terms of the position of the President of the Republic of Kenya and for the governor's position. The other cadres, the qualification for a degree were removed. So Sakaja is found in a situation where he's being told, you want to be the governor of Nairobi, produce your degree. Then other issues now arise. One, on the 6th of June, Sakaja is purportedly, allegedly presented papers to the IBC. Q wrote back immediately on the same day to the university. The university writes back to Q. Q confirms to the IBC when Sakaja is cleared on the 7th. The timing as a lawyer is very suspect. Did he graduate on the 5th of June so that he waited until the last day to nomination when he went to bring that? That is a very critical question that the courts are going to look at. Number two, Q approved or recognized the degree. But now Q again is saying we need more time to verify because, as I've said, the timelines, a request for confirmation came on 6th, and they gave that confirmation on 6th, and IBC cleared Sakaja on the 7th of June. So that critical question that did Q have reasonable and sufficient time to verify must have been the reason that informed them to say, for now, we revoke the recognition, but we are still verifying.
Yeah.
Third, will that letter of Q be admitted in the tribunal, the IBC tribunal? I don't think it will form part of the evidence because the law says any evidence anybody wants to rely on must be filed and be served to Sakaja in advance so that Sakaja will make a ruling. And I think the IBC tribunal has made it clear that it will not rely on that question, that letter of Q. The animal in the room is the bringing into fore that this is President Uhuru's sabotage, and that it is a political machination to make sure that Sakaja does not contest in. I think it is quite unfortunate that Sakaja or his handlers are bringing to question the role of the presidency in this matter. As I've said, it's a simple thing. A degree, Trevor, if I have a degree from the University of Nairobi, it is evident. I'll bring it and hand over to Trevor at Citizen TV. Then the whole world will be shown that this is the degree that Mr. Omari or Wakili Dansan Omari has. It does not need to bring in politics or President Uhuru Kenyatta as having influenced the decision of independent organs. And this is the attack. I've always insisted that people have been attacking the IBC, people have been attacking Q, people have been attacking institutions. We should concentrate on defending ourselves
Yeah.
without attacking the institution. But
Okay.
the bigger picture is, do politicians, do people in positions, do people in public office, especially the top echelons, have the real degrees that they purport to have?
Okay.
Trevor, there's one narrative that is going on. Wakili, my good friend here, I saw him graduating from Moi, and everybody will say, we went with Kipchumba to Moi University. We were taught by Professor Ojienda. We appeared in class together. None of all these political elites, other than few, almost 2%, are graduates of Kenyan universities.
Okay.
So that is where we are heading to the discussion that we need now to ask everybody to present papers so that the students have been teaching at Catholic University can get jobs.
Okay.
Because the people holding positions in this country seems that they don't have academic papers that warrant them to sit on those positions.
All right. Kipchumba, when the CUE clears a candidate, they almost approves the paperwork, then says again that it's not clear, does it lend credence to what Sakaja is saying, that there is external influence, or is this just an issue of not having a degree period?
Thank you, Trevor. You know, what surprises me, Trevor, at a personal level, is this degree discussion. At times, I want to call it a storm in the teacup, because having a degree is like pregnancy. You don't guess. It's either there or not. There are no two ways about it. The answer cannot be maybe. It is either yes or no. And we all know the process of acquiring a degree. And I have personal reservation on how the Commission on University Education has acted in all this matter. Number one, in a normal institution, it is not the chairman who writes letters. It is the CEO. That is standard. But away from that, Sakaja has his right to be heard. I cannot cancel your letter without calling you and explaining. That revocation to me brought back the ghost of weaponizing institutions, whereby we use some institutions to attain political ends. Because at the end of the day, the matter was already active in the Dispute Resolution Committee of IBC. Whether Q wanted to do something, they ought to have come on record as an interested party and helped the committee at IBC get to the depth of the matter. But at the end of the day, there is something that needs to be addressed within this nation, whereby we continuously raise integrity issues about our leaders on their academic credentials. Your intellectual umbilical cord, Trevor, has to be crystal clear, because you went to school in, let's say, Maranda. People know you went there. It is not that maybe you are there or not. Okango went to, let's say, to St. Mary's Yala. We can call the classmates, and maybe proceeded to University of Nairobi. We can call the classmates. But the emergence of a one class degree holder is something that we should ask ourselves. We need to begin and we need to ask ourselves, all these leaders, Abdul Swamad, Wavinya Ndeti, Mithika Linturi, Raila Odinga, all these people who have been brought to the degree issue, they need to come forth and clear their names, because a degree is not an end, it is a process. Okay. You have transcripts, you have cut, you have classmates, as my senior Omar is talking about, all this, you have group work. So at the end of the day, I think the discussion about this degree should be widened, and we should even have the mother discussion. Is a degree necessary going to the future? Because we have brought a degree to be a measure, whereas we have other serious issues. So at the end of the day, even the people talking about this corruption thing, some of them have been mentioned to suffer intellectual integrity deficits. So we need to ask those questions. That you cannot say, I am coming, Trevor, to Citizen, to Ed Citizen, I'll fight corruption, but my papers are questionable. You need to start fighting the corruption of your documents before fighting the external corruption. But
you mentioned some of those people who have actually already been cleared, like Raila Odinga has been cleared to run for president.
But you know now,
his degree is not in question, because otherwise it would not be clear.
Is part of the people, Trevor, who the rumor mill and the gossip machine keeps on bringing his name. We have seen there's around 8 or 9 people.
But he's been cleared.
They have been cleared. Even Abu Samad has been
Sakaja is
cleared.
yet to be cleared. So his is the one that is...
He has been cleared by IBC.
right now. All right, let me bring in Okango. Okango, what are your thoughts on this degree?
Trevor,
Yeah.
this is leadership, and it requires integrity. And in the selection of leaders, it is based on certain facts. One of them is the suitability, the second is competency. When you look at the competency, then there are certain aspects of competency that are looked at. One of them is the moral and educational competency. And that is provided for in law. And now, the issue that my good friend Kachumba is raising is valid. However, it is the same constitution that provides that educational or moral competency must be provided for in the Constitution or in any other law, Act of Parliament. The Act of Parliament Election Act in Section 22, and even the IBC, their own regulation, 47, provides that for you to run as a governor, deputy governor, president, deputy president, you must produce a degree that is recognized in Kenya. Commission of University Education has revoked the recognition of that degree that Sakaja acquired in Uganda. That puts the question of the validity of that degree. That is the question we're discussing today. The other issues that, or the other candidates who have been cleared and there are gray areas around, their educational competency as far as degree is concerned, those are issues that can also still be addressed the same way. But my worry is one. We are going into an election and we want to elect leaders who are suitable and competent. And we want to put them in office through the ballot and ensure that when they end their term, they actually deliver what they promised us or they deliver what we want. You cannot do that, Trevor, if the first thing that you question is their ability to occupy those offices, as Danson Maria said. Number 3, this issue is going to open a Pandora's box because going forward is not only in elective positions, even in appointed positions, we must put people who are suitable and competent. And if a requirement of having gone to school and sufficiently gotten education and capable of doing that job is a requirement, then we must start by that. Yeah. And I want to agree with my two colleagues that, number one, to have a degree, you must have gone to school. 4 years or 6, whichever type of course you are doing, and you can produce it when requested. When you are tasked to produce it, instead of posting so many letters, correspondence with Uganda, Kampala, Nairobi, Kenya, produce the degree, produce the photos of graduation, produce the photos you took with your classmate, produce the evidence of transcript, and also produce the mode of you used to pay the fees, because those are some of the areas that, unless you're on scholarship, you can also produce that. I want to ask the politicians out there who are going round and round and round saying they have those documentation that are required by law. Because when you go before IBC, the requirements are listed. Other than ID, all this, you must table also educational requirements. Yeah. And that's what the law says. Okay. I want to believe when he was being cleared, he must have tabled something. But you see, why would Commission of University Education revoke that recognition? Because they said they have received material fact around some of these issues. Yeah. That is what we are looking at today. Okay. Whether this thing go to High Court, as I'm told it's going, the only way, if the court suspends the recognition of the revocation of that recognition, is when we can now say, okay, fine, maybe there's something that is now happening. But as it is today, the question in the public court is that, does Sakaja have a university degree as a requirement to run for the Nairobi or for gubernatorial, or to be a gubernatorial candidate? Yeah. That is the question. But we cannot answer that question in this panel.
Okay, but Omari, the High Court has suspended the CUE's decision to revoke recognition of Senator Sakaja'S university degree, pending a hearing and determination of his case. What does that mean then? Does it mean now that it's no longer in question? Is it a free to run now? What does that essentially mean? Because the High Court is only suspending the CUE's decision to revoke the recognition. So it's not that they're saying that is clear, it's that revocation that they are also revoking.
Courts operate for the benefit of Kenyans this way.
Yeah.
If there's an already decision that has been done by a government or public entity, somebody will invoke Article 47 of the Constitution and say the decision that was arrived is likely to cause a serious prejudice. If it is not suspended, it is not put at the parking bay, it is not said what we call stayed until I've been heard and my case has been determined. The High Court simply said, for now, ngoja kidogo.
Yeah, they're suspending it. So I need you to explain to us legally what that means.
That's why I'm coming
the
so
same
low.
CUE that allowed it.
Any decision that has been done after Sakaja was cleared by Q has been stayed, has been put on hold, has breki imewekwa. They will be heard now. Q will come to court and explain how they made that decision. Sakaja will be given time to argue that Q's decision is wrong. The question that is likely to be, and this is how courts operate worldwide, they will stay, give each party time to be heard, then a decision is been done. I've seen Justice Nga has given 7 days to be served and the matter be heard expeditiously. I think the judge, if he's listening, that matter was supposed to be heard tomorrow or today, so that we have a decision from the JR division so that we move forward. Because what I've seen in other courts is that you appear today, that decision is suspended, you are told serve within five hours or 2 days, appear here and get a decision. But what the High Court has simply said is that tungoje kidogo. Either a final decision is going to be done. But let me go further.
Yeah.
As a lawyer, the question is, does the High Court have jurisdiction to hear that matter at this time? In a matter, one Mbete filed in a free bench judge challenging the recognition and validity of the decree of one Joho, Governor Joho. The court said, you have not, 3 judges, you have not finished, exhausted the internal mechanisms that are there. Remember, as we are sitting, there is a live matter at the IBC panel. How do we deal with that question? So definitely, they got it wrong. They could have dealt with that question at the IBC panel. Once the IBC panel decision comes out, then they go to the High Court to challenge that decision. That is what lawyers will say, it is premature.
Okay.
The real question has not matured to be determined. But as I've said, courts will always give you time, tell you, okay, we break it, come, we listen, and the answer is, I don't want to prejudice the decision of the judge.
Yeah, but Kipchumba, what is your interpretation? Because it's the same CUE that cleared him, the same CUE that revoked it. Now that revocation has been revoked, does it mean it stands cleared? Or does it mean it's still
as of this morning, Trevor, this morning, as we speak, Sakaja is a candidate. Now, if an election was to be held today in Nairobi, he's a candidate. Because Justice Jairus Nga gave what we call a status quo ante. He returned them to where, he returned Sakaja to the position he was before revocation. But so the question at the Judicial Review Division is a question about revocation. It is not a question about whether Sakaja has a degree or not. The question is a question whereby Sakaja is asking that my rights have not been, my liberties have been abrogated in the nature that I was not called by the Commission of University Education to explain myself. You just revoked my document without asking me for any other thing, because even if the Commission of University Education have other alternative facts, they needed to have given Sakaja or any other party a chance to be heard. And then there is also the other question, why we are also, my question I've always asked, why do we sustain or continuously create political martyrs? In the last election, the media and the state machinery created alias and Joho. In this election, they are creating Sakaja, who has been a mild politician. They are taking him to the extreme because he has always not been. He has always been. If we had that thing of measuring whether the acidity, he has always been. Yeah, he has always been a neutral politician. Why are they taking him closer to one? That will have always been my question, because look at all this. If I were Igathe, what will I be saying? Because this is politics, Trevor. A politician has continuously occupied page 1 for the last 4 days. What is happening? It means in Mogoka places in down Nairobi there, people are discussing Sakaja. Whether good or bad, at the end of the day,
is top of mind.
Is top of mind. So when we look at leveling the political field, these are some of those things that we really need to ask ourselves. Are we doing a favor? Aren't we rigging the election already? Okay. Because after this, if Sakaja was to come back, he will come back with so much sympathy. Okay. He will say, you know, I helped. Look at what he has written in his Facebook account. I helped Uhuru Kenyatta. Look at what he's doing to me. And people, because Kenyans have been here, they will sympathize with the man. So the man will get away. Now nobody will be questioning Sakaja'S degree, the validity. They'll be questioning Uhuru Kenyatta as a good friend. Now we move away, and that's why I've always had an issue with how we handle pseudo-political problems in this country. And as I finish that point, there is an issue here which it has to be sorted properly, because what lies at the judicial review is Sakaja trying to bring or to question a government institution or entity which is Commission of University Education about the revocation of his degree, or about them saying they are still investigating. But there is also something else which I think was not necessary. Why do we bring the Ministry of Foreign Affairs at the center of all this? Because we lend credence to the narrative already in town that Sakaja is being fought. Because if you mobilize all state machinery to look like they are fighting one man, nobody is questioning, for example, Abdul Swamad, and whether by the time he graduated in Inorero was still a university, or it had been rounded up. Some of this discussion, because or nobody is questioning, for example, if Wavinya Ndeti can do what the degree she holds says. You know, they say he's a computer science graduate. Can she really do that? So some of these things. But at the end of the day, what the Kenyan voter must get is we need leaders who have analytical skills. Okay. We need a leader in Nairobi. If he was to land in New York, we don't need an interpreter for them to interpret why some buildings are taller than others.
Okay. Let's bring Rokango on this. Rokango, the simple fact that the president's name has now been dragged into this entire conversation, is it simply clutching on straws? Because it leaves the president with the egg on face either way. If Sakaja wins, the president was defeated. If he doesn't win, the president triumphed and still was persecuting him politically.
Trevor, also, it brings to question something. The caliber of friends the president keeps around. If he keeps people whom we think their documents are not in order. So now,
you know, in the other lens, sometimes when I look at my good friend here, Kipchumba, I look at him on the lens, the political lens, because he belongs to the other side. And if you look at the examples he keeps giving, other than Sakaja, Wavinya, Abdul Swamad, those are examples from our end. But let me tell you, Karoli, there's a newspaper this morning that has headline.
Linturi is in Nazimio.
Maybe it's coming. There's a newspaper in this morning that has a headline that how Jubilee plotted for Sakaja'S fall. One of the newspapers. Then they picked that from Sakaja'S posts, where Sakaja says that it is the president, Uhuru Kenyatta, that is now using institutions to deny him an opportunity to lead Nairobi. In my view, I think those are political statements. I don't take them seriously. And as you say, maybe somebody's clutching on the straws. And if you look at this headline today, there's a gentleman here who looks like Sakaja. He's falling. He has fallen down. And there's a banana peel. Let me tell you, Trevor, this election is a very tight election in all fronts. And politicians will use any excuse so that they justify the reason why they might not be able to win the election, or they might not be able to get to the position they want. The issue of Sakaja is being addressed by the tribunal and the courts. We want to leave it to them, and they'll give us an outcome after hearing and determining that matter. But politically speaking, because we are politicians, we strongly believe that there are certain reasons that make things happen. One of the reasons today that why this is happening is because Sakaja himself did project himself as a graduate of Nairobi University. He did project himself as somebody who has never studied outside Kenya. He did project himself as somebody who believes in the morals and, you know, the integrity requirements of a leader. And therefore, to that extent, he valued the leadership and integrity provisions. And we respected him for that. When something like this happens, and the public steps back and say, wait a minute, this, my good friend Sakaja, did tell us 1, 2, 3. How come today this is happening to him? And that's why there are certain quarters, the Muguka community that Karoli is talking about, are likely to question and say, wait, this is not the Sakaja we know. Somebody is fighting Sakaja. But from the other end, those who know Sakaja, because Sakaja was a TNA chairman. Actually, Sakaja prepared President Uhuru Kenyatta and the team for the presidency. In fact, they were the think tank of the president. So they know each other. And therefore, there is a reason. If it is true that there are certain people, whether the Moguka or the Eklon, as Sino Mari talks about them, they know Sakaja better than us here. So the two camps will also project him in a manner that they know him. For us, who are watching from far, we are saying that justice must be found. If it is true that Sakaja Johnson Arthur holds a valid degree that must be recognized by the Commission of University Education of Kenya, then Sakaja should be in the ballot and go and compete with Igathe, who will beat him by 8 a.m. in the morning, as Igathe has always said. Number 3, we strongly believe that it is fair to give young people opportunity to lead. Sakaja is fairly a young man. And I saw some of the young people saying, you know, this is unfair, we must come out and fight for Sakaja. That's true. But look, while you are giving young people opportunity, let us not give them opportunity through corners and shortcuts. Okay. So we must follow the process, and the process, there's only one arbiter. That arbiter is IEBC. Okay. They have looked at the issues, they are independent, they cleared him. But there's a question into the degree that they used to clear him. That degree, the recognition has been revoked. Sakaja has used the process to go to court. Let's give him an opportunity so that the court can hear him, okay, and they'll come back to us, the public, and tell us this was the issue, it has been determined. And then we'll proceed from there and compete fairly. Okay, let's take a quick break now and keep your views coming at Trevor Mbidi at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. When you come back, we talk about the IBC that you've just raised. There's the 1 million votes that could threaten the poll. There's quite a lot to talk about in terms of the IBC preparedness. Only 53 days to the polls. See you in just a bit.